Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for October 25th through 31st. This week I read 3 books, I watched 5 shows, I watched 3 movies, and I listened to 1 book. It is also my 200th episode in a row doing this series. I started this series back in January of 2017 and I've done a video every single week wrapping up everything I read, watch, and listen to. In case you're not one of the 113 people that saw the original video, I'm going to insert a clip from the very first video in this series talking about why I do this format. Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and welcome to my very first weekly entertainment wrap-up. This idea was inspired by Kirsty over at Melbourne on My Mind, who does a weekly wrap-up of all the books she reads in a week, and she reads an average of 9 books a week because she's super quick and she's awesome. So if you like this format, definitely check out her channel below. I, however, can't read that many books in a week. I am a very slow reader, even though I absolutely love reading. So instead of just wrapping up the books that I read in a week, which sometimes might be 1 or 2, I've decided I'm going to wrap up all of my entertainment for the week. So what I read, what I listen to, and what I watch. I was thinking it would be fun to go through all the videos in this series and pick out a few different things as kind of a montage. I ran out of time. If that is something you would still like to see, let me know down below and I'll see if I have the time during Nonfiction November, Indigathon, and NaNoWriMo this month. I've also always had the same thumbnails for the last 199 episodes, and assuming I don't chicken out, today's thumbnail will be different. That's something I don't currently know, but editing Kathy will have to figure out. First, I finished The Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin. This is the follow-up to The Killing Moon, which I read last week. These books take place about 10 years apart, so it's interesting to revisit characters you kind of saw in The Killing Moon, or ones that you really knew but aren't main characters in this book. Because I had more of an understanding of the magic system from the previous book, this one was much easier to tear through even though it was a little bit longer. Obviously, being a sequel, there's not much I can really tell you besides I really enjoyed this duology. N.K. Jemisin is wonderful. I'm going to have to read the Broken Earth trilogy again because I read the first 2 books as audiobooks from my library, and then they just didn't have the 3rd audiobook, so I didn't get into the 3rd book, so I've forgotten everything that happened pretty much except for a couple of the twists. I'm going to have to go back and revisit it. This week for the Black SFF-a-thon, I also read Bloodsong, which is a short story by Brent Lambert, as published in Anathema magazine. What's funny is I originally picked this prompt because I was just trying to do a simple line through the bingo board and I needed something set on another world, which is interesting because I ended up reading both of those N.K. Jemisin books and they're set on a different world. So I didn't technically need to read this and I didn't end up reading my horror to complete my line because I had an issue getting the book I wanted from the library. I'm probably going to get it sometime this month instead. But that being said, I did enjoy this short story. It is a very quick setup. Basically, there is something happening in this world that is only affecting very specific types of people. And by something, I mean basically a plague, so it's interesting to read in the current times. Our protagonist is affected as well as his partner, and he wants to get medicine for the partner, so he goes on this quest to do so, and it's a short story, so I'm not going to tell you much more than that. This is set on a different world, it has magic. I could probably reread it over and over again to get a little bit more sense of how the magic system works, because there's a lot in this very short story. And finally, to beef up my numbers for my October wrap-up that is coming sometime this week, I read Something is Killing the Children Volume 1. This is a graphic novel about something that is killing children. It's right there in the title. It starts out with this boy who is telling spooky stories with his friends, kind of a truth or dare situation, and then they go out into the creepy woods, and then he's the only one that comes out of the creepy woods. He obviously feels a lot of guilt about this. People think that he killed them, or he was in on it, or that type of thing, and then this mysterious woman shows up in town saying that she is going to kill the monster. I liked this premise, it was interesting. I'm going to have to read the other volumes when they come out. On to the shows we watched. We're into the 4th season of Man in the High Castle, which means we only have a few episodes left, and there's a lot going on. If you haven't started the show, I can't really tell you what the newest, biggest twist and annoyance is, because it's a pretty big reveal. But needless to say, if you had put this show on and weren't really paying attention, you would be very lost at this point. We also watched a bunch of episodes of New Girl just to lighten the mood. It's kind of the thing we throw on and don't pay too close attention to, although it is fun to visit these characters because they are ridiculous. We also put on a few episodes of The IT Crowd, and I completely forgot how transphobic that one episode is, so wow, this is not a show that has aged well. I remember watching all the episodes like a decade ago and really enjoying it because it is very funny situational comedy, and then you go back and you're like, oh, they're actually punching down a lot. Ooh, okay. We also finished the 1st season of Fargo and we're into the 2nd season, which means we're back in 1979, which is just so cool to see one of these characters but portrayed when he was younger, and I just really enjoy knowing some things because they talked about what's happening in this second season in the first season because it's something that had happened in the past. So I like... Too soon. So I like having that connecting thread even though these seasons don't really have that much to do with each other. That's really interesting to me. Finally, in celebration of Halloween, we watched every single Treehouse of Horrors episode from The Simpsons. I guess minus the one that's airing today because we don't have access to the current season. That means 29 official Treehouse of Horror episodes and then one episode that is just called Treehouse of Horror even though it's not a Treehouse of Horror episode from I think the 28th season. That was very confusing because I was watching it and going, this sketches the whole episode. Usually there's 3 sketches per Treehouse of Horror episode and it's just because it was just named that. It was weird. There are so many references in these episodes. If you've ever seen one, you know that for sure. There are also tons of callbacks. It was really fun to see when they started doing the gravestone gags and when they started doing the spooky name gags and how that went away for a while and whose name changed to what. That was very fun. We basically started this Friday night and then did it all day Saturday. I am the only one in the house that actually stayed awake for all of them. I'm very excited about that, but it was mostly so I could say that I watched all of them for this wrap up. On in the movies I watched, the first one being The Witches, which is based off the Roald Dahl book, which I have never read, and I had never seen this movie. It is a very fun movie. Angelica Houston is in it, which is amazing. And then it's all about this little boy who's hanging out with his grandma, and she explains how she lost a finger because when she was young, a witch took it. And then she ends up being his guardian and she runs into that same witch and they have to thwart her plot. We also watched A Quiet Place, which is such an interesting film. It's about this family who's existing in this world where there are these monsters that are attracted to sound. So if you make any sounds, they will hear you, track you down, and kill you, which makes great opportunity for jump scares. The eldest child in this family is deaf, so the family has already learned some sign language and continues to use sign language throughout the film. There are very few spoken lines in this film. And it was kind of a mental exercise to go through and see how they make it so that they don't make sound throughout their existence. My mind kind of got ahead of me while I was watching it and I kind of thought, oh, whoever was in this type of situation when this happened would have been completely screwed, and then that type of situation happened in the film. So it was good. I really enjoyed it. It also has John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, who are a married couple in real life, and I believe he also directed it. So I can say I really enjoyed this one. The last movie we watched was another rewatch of The Nightmare Before Christmas, because why not? I've already watched it this year. I will probably watch it again around Christmas time. It's a Halloween movie and a Christmas movie. And that's all I'm gonna say, because you've already heard me talk about it. The book I listened to this week is a reread, and that is Cemetery Boys. I've already read this book twice previously this year, but I hadn't listened to the audiobook yet, which has all of the corrections because I had been reading the advanced reader's copy, and of course there were a couple of errors that were cleaned up between me receiving that and it being published. If you somehow haven't heard about this book, it is about a young trans boy named Yadriel who is trying to prove to his family that he is a brujo because they have a feeling that his powers won't work the way that they should because you can't just say you're a boy and then have the boy type of powers. So obviously trigger warnings for transphobia. However, he and his cousins decide that he is going to go through his rites to get his powers on his own, and then to prove to his family that he has brujo powers, he is going to find a spirit and release it. That spirit, however, doesn't want to go, and it is delightful. I actually did my first ever full-length review on this book, so I'm going to link that in places. But what I want to say about the audiobook in particular is it is so well done. They got a trans narrator, which is just fantastic. I love that they did that. At the end of the book, there's also an interview between the narrator and Aidan Thomas, which is definitely worth listening to. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link to that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist in case you would like to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!